I'd like to start with you, Jon. So we heard a little bit about how Daniel came to you and retired. Can you tell us a little bit about how you sort of processed that as a parent and kind of how you felt in that moment?
Yeah, so he, literally came to me and said, I want to retire after a month into his T-ball season at age 5 years old. And it was heartbreaking. It was the byproduct of a really competitive league, way too competitive. You had parents arguing with parents and umpires, kids playing the outfield the whole season. You had disputes with umpires, waiting for the commissioner to come, a 20-minute delay. Kids even fought in the dugout. They sort of mirrored the kids. It was surreal. And I blame myself a little bit for part of this because I was an assistant coach on the team. I raised some concerns to the head coach. And he said, well, the parents pay a lot of money and they want to win. And I said, this is 5- and 6-year-old T-ball. That's not why I signed my kid up. But as parents, then you just sort of soldier through it. I wasn't working at Project Play at that point. I didn't know where to turn to for resources, or who to ask for help. And so in the back of your mind, you kind of think, all right, we're not going to be in this league again the next season, but you don't do enough in the moment. And one bad sport experience can mean the end for a child. And for Daniel, he hasn't really played team sports since, just about one season.
When Betsy was little, she's used a power chair since she was 5. And so soon after she turned 5, we started her in this little dance group. The first time she did it, it was awesome. She was just one of the kids. It was super fun. And then she signed up for a little camp, and they did a little stage production, and they sort of made it all about her instead of just one of the kids. And she hated it, and it all just backfired. And she wouldn't do any sort of get in front of people for probably 2 years after that. It was awful. And so she was really out of any group activities like that until we moved to Birmingham and the Lakeshore Foundation started a power soccer team for kids. And that has it's just opened up so many things for her, and it's been phenomenal.
In that moment, is there anything that you wish there was a resource for that maybe exists now that you could have said, you know what, this isn't going the way I want it to, and another way for you to approach that head coach?
Yeah. ProjectPlay.us, if I could plug us. we have a lot of great parent resources, but at the time I wasn't working at Project Play and didn't know where to turn to. And the reality is most of the parents on this team were sensible parents. And that's the reality for most parents out here. You want the best for your child. You want them to have a great opportunity. You want them to try to succeed, have fun. You get caught up in it a little bit and into the youth sports system, and you start paying more money, or you become really competitive. But most of the parents actually were embarrassed by what was going on, but you just stay quiet. And so you don't know where to turn to, and you just sort of soldier through. So I would have loved to have known ways to ask the right questions. And then actually I have taken a different approach with my youngest son, Josh, and I've been the coach for his team a lot more. I've coached his soccer and baseball teams. I get to directly impact if he's having a positive experience. And I also have tried to get to know the coaches when I'm not coaching. I've tried to have conversations with them. I try to observe them and sort of vet them internally a little bit to sort of understand what they're like, how they're communicating with the kids. But the reality is that's a really hard conversation for parents to have because you don't want to look like you're the helicopter parent, you're the overbearing parent. But we do this in school, if you think about it. If my son is struggling at math, I'll have a conversation with the teacher, or my son will have a conversation with the teacher to make sure that it's a positive experience. So why would we not do it in sports as well?
Betsy's my oldest of 3 kids, and so I have 2 children that are able-bodied and typical children, and I look for the same things in their coaches as I do in hers. And she talked a lot about being encouraging, and I don't think you can ask for more or expect anything different from a coach except for to encourage your children. And my son has had experiences of coaches that were phenomenally encouraging and supportive when he was wanting to cry on the soccer field and didn't want to play, to inconsistency with those coaches that have been so phenomenal to him. And he loves it now. And he says, I'm not the best, but I work the hardest and I have fun. And so he wants to keep doing it. He's also had experiences where the coach maybe plays the same kids that are more athletic or privately coached or whatever it is, and they get a lot more playing time. And that's just not nearly as much fun, and sort of takes away from the team spirit when he's 8 years old. So that was when he was 7, I guess. And he still really enjoyed it, but I felt like we were really lucky that he still enjoyed that experience. And mostly I look for somebody that's really encouraging and wants them to really have fun and learn sportsmanship and teamwork more than win.
I asked both coaches and parents, how long have they been doing what they've been doing? And if they truly have a passion for it. Because if they have a passion and a love for it, they're going to exude and share that the children, the kids have a great experience as well. So I look for passion, and if they really have a love for it.
Project Play recently issued a national survey for youth sports parents. I'm curious, is there anything that you found interesting in that survey that you might want to share? Do you want to start us off, Jon?
Sure. So a couple things. One, that the average child quits their sport by the age of 11. And the number one reason is that they stopped enjoying it. I mean, we see this all the time in various surveys that we do across the country and that other researchers have done. The number one reason kids want to play is to have fun. I mean, it's pretty basic and simple, and they want to be with teammates. But we as adults sometimes ignore that research, and it's been there over and over again. And that's what the Utah State survey that they did with the Aspen Institute said as well. Another thing is just the huge gap of how much it costs to play sports. The average cost is about $700 for a family to have their child in one sport over the course of a year. The more interesting number, I think, is also the huge gap between zero and, say, tens of thousands of dollars of what the experience may be for someone playing sports. And think about what those experiences are like. You know, if you're someone who can't afford to play sports, you're getting priced out. You may not even have the opportunity to afford the baseball bat and the equipment and the travel fees. And then also think about the costs if you are someone whose parents spending $14,000, $15,000 a year. Is there some pressure, inherent pressure, that your child is facing? The parents are probably just trying to create the best opportunity and not trying to do that. But the reality is that may filter down, and the kid says, oh man, do I have to perform in order for my parent to have a return on investment?
The age of retirement stood out to me because before I even heard about Project Summit last spring, I was talking to my, Project Play Summit, sorry. I was talking to some mom friends of mine about our kids in sports, and we were saying how it seemed like when we were growing up, we were entering more organized sports at the age that kids are quitting them now. We would play in the neighborhood and have pickup games of all kinds of things, but organized sports seemed like they started a little bit later, and now organized sports are starting when kids are 3 and 4, like crazy young, and the kids are done by the time they're, obviously 11 or so. And we had been talking about that and trying to figure out what to do to sort of prevent that for our children, but it just struck me that it was obviously such a recognized thing, and I'm grateful there's some people trying to figure out how to fix it. Because when I look at my kids doing sports, I think, I want you to find something that you'll do that helps you enjoy physical activity that you can do as an adult, so that when you grow up, so you can stay healthy and stay physically healthy and emotionally healthy throughout your life, not so you can be a star basketball player when you're 9. Like, that doesn't really mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things to me.
2017, 2018, over 900,000 athletes played college sports. And only 300 of those athletes last year were drafted either by the NFL or the NBA. And so sports have become such a financial burden for families and parents because it's at an early age, as Annalise was saying, and they're starting at 3, 4. I didn't start playing sports, organized sports, until I was 13, 14 years of age. So that was one of the stats that really stood out to me, that so many of these athletes participate in it, but only 300 make it to the next level regarding their profession. One of my clients played in the NBA, played for the Lakers. And so I signed my son up to play for the basketball, and Navonne, he was about 5 or 6. And as he was playing basketball, he couldn't shoot and make the ball go to the rim as other kids. I came home, I was like, told my wife, we got to get him a basketball court because he can't be on the back, And as a dad, I felt kind of bad because, being black and your son can't play basketball, it's like, oh goodness. You know what I'm saying? So I immediately, ran home to my wife, like, we gotta get a basketball court, and him having a basketball court, hoop in the backyard, it kind of improved also his social skills with friends, and his neighbors wanted to come over and play basketball. So that was an experience that we had, I guess, for him to be more active in sports.
We just happen to live in a neighborhood that is so open to that, and all the parents kind of look after each other's kids, and some people have a policy of come home when the church bells ring, and it's just a very, very easy neighborhood we're very lucky with where we are. And I don't know how to recreate that in other places. I think some of it is just having a certain number of children that can find each other, and parents that will say, go outside, like, don't be inside anymore, go outside. And they'll find each other. It's amazing. And they'll make up all kinds of games. And like with Betsy, when it was harder for her to participate, they'll find the most creative ways to include her in these outside games. And it's it's amazing what they can come up with if we stand back and let them do it.
I try to push them out the door and just go play outside, have free play. We've lost the ability in our country, I think, a lot of times for kids to just have free play and to be able to make up games on their own. Now, there are legitimate reasons for safety purposes.
Sure.
You may not live in the best environment, but there are many communities where kids are available and you should be able to go outside and play, but we overschedule them, or we just have them in too many organized sports, or too many organized other activities. One thing that I've tried to do, it's sort of me imposing a little bit free play, but I think it's worked, is we created a game with my sons Daniel and Josh called the Whatchacalla Games. Literally just, that was the name. Like, we didn't know what to call it, so we called it the Whatchacalla Games. We go to our local elementary school, and it's a competition between the two, and lots of different sports, and they get to choose the different sports. Let's see how many times you can hit the ball on the racket, up and down, how many baskets you can make, how far you can throw the football. We do sprints, races. It's just anything just to get them moving. But the competitive part really jives with them. They get that, and they keep score. They hate when one of them loses, and and then there's some fights and all that. But they enjoy it, and it's the way to be able to engage. And we give them a little baseball at the end. They write their name on it and keep tabs of whoever's the winner each time of the Whatchacalla Games.
When we lived in Arkansas, they had a neat idea, I thought, where on Wednesdays, I think it went through the whole, I don't know how old it went, but it was at least through the younger years. There's no homework on Wednesdays and no scheduled sporting events on Wednesdays. And so their homework was to spend time with their families or friends, and it was really a neat idea, I thought, and it just gave you a little bit of free time and everybody had free time at the same time. My son, when he was about 6, he really wanted to do gymnastics. We were in the process of moving to Birmingham. I was trying to find a place that could do gymnastics for him, and the only place that would do gymnastics with boys was about a 45-minute drive away. And then I talked to him about it because I really wanted to make sure he wanted to do it before we committed to a lot of time in the car. And he very quickly, once he was around kind of new group of friends, would say, I want to do it, but I don't want people to know I do it. And so it became sort of he ended up not doing gymnastics, which is still going to bother me, but I hope it doesn't bother him too much. But I think, I hate that because our local gymnastics place, they do boys for up to age 5, and I think some of it is an equipment issue, that they use different equipment and they don't have the space or money for it, or the demand for kids to do it. But yeah, that was eye-opening to me that at such a young age it was a girl sport versus a boy sport type thing, especially gymnastics.
So I had that with Daniel with field hockey. He experimented with the sport this past year, and what was really interesting, it's mainly a girls' sport. It's largely a girls' sport here in the country, and he was pretty much one of the only boys who was there at an 8-week clinic he went to. But what was really cool to me is how he got interested in it at first. He's a huge Washington Capitals ice hockey fan. We both are. We watch a ton of games. All right, let's go. Let's win another cup. So we loved ice hockey, but learning how to skate on ice is pretty hard and dangerous. And so he wasn't really keen to try to learn how to do that. But then my wife heard of a one-day field hockey clinic run by the local Parks and Rec department. It happened to be on a day off school on President's Day. She just wanted to get them out of the house. And the kids went, and Daniel ended up enjoying it. And we ended up signing him up for an 8-week clinic. Basically, he heard field, he heard hockey, and he's like, okay, I'll try it. I don't know if he'll stay with it, maybe not, but it was just really interesting that that's how you can engage kids in different sports that you may not think about, just because some other reason that he likes it. You got to get exposed and expose kids to different sports sometimes to even try it. There's 120 plus sports out there. You know? Expose them to many different ones.
We talk a lot about trying to have some of that sport sampling. How do you balance as they get excited about one sport, some of that with the opportunity to try new things? I know sometimes it can be hard to find new activities. I used to try things at school, but if school's not offering things sort of outside of the norm or things they might want to try, how do you balance sort of encouraging them to say, you know what, go out and try that field hockey opportunity or things of that nature that might pique their interest where the other things don't?
For me, with my youngest son who plays sports year-round, he does baseball, basketball, and soccer. I think one thing that helps is that I'm involved a little bit too. He loves baseball. That would be his sport year-round if he were to play it. I don't want him playing it year-round. But he does soccer as well. And one reason I think he does soccer is I usually coach. I'm involved. And I think parents a lot of times kids model after their parents. See the kids doing physical activity. If they see them going to practice, if they see them being engaged, then that's one way to do it. Also, just a quick plug, like at our website, we have a website, healthysportindex.com, that there's sport sampling options. So you can go like sport by sport and look at particular sports and see, all right, if I play this sport, what would be another good sport I could sample that would still improve my physical fitness and also improve the athletic skills in my favorite sport.
I found that if I sign my kids up for something that's too much early, I signed my son up for a tennis camp, and it was a week-long tennis camp, and he was 5 or 6, so I thought 3 hours a day, it's kind of minor. They'll just, I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. He hates tennis ever since then. And I think if he'd just had like an hour a week at the beginning, and not been all tennis in Alabama in July, it would have been a little bit better. So a lot of it is learning from mistakes that we've made, and trying to just teach them. They learn so young. They want to take care of themselves and they want to be healthy, and they, give them. I feel like we need to give them a little bit more credit that they want to do what's good for them. And so if you teach them that screens aren't good for you, but physical activity is, and being outside is good for you physically and emotionally and cognitively and all of that, then they seek what's good for them.
Thinking as a parent, what are suggestions you would have someone else help ensure their child doesn't retire, right? What is there one thing that you could think of that you'd say, you know what, this is like my piece of advice that I would give to someone else to ensure that their child has a good experience?
For me, I know this sounds cliche, but it's about fun at the end of the day. And kids, really, they just want to have fun. They play video games because they know they don't have their parents or a coach over them saying, do this. They have the opportunity to fail, make mistakes, learn how to play it, and become an expert at it because they failed and they didn't have no one tell them how to play. And so, I'm an artist, I'm a poet, so it's really about fun and passion. So it's as cliche as it may sound, just let them have fun. Like I know as an actor, he's having fun. When he's singing, he's having fun. When he's dancing, he's having fun. So I would just say literally, just let your child have fun. If it's playing sports, if it's painting, or if it's ballet, just let them have fun. Because they're 10, they're 12, they don't have any other, I say school and fun, that's your responsibility and your chores around the house. And so, cliche as it may sound, let them have fun.
I think keep trying until you find the right. A lot of it is the right coaches and the right kind of team spirit around the parents. I think they have fun until parents and coaches take the fun away from them in a lot of ways. And when I see my kids, see the kids in the yard playing, they're all having a great time. And if they're not, they're having some sort of argument or some sort of something that they're going to work together and get over and learn from if we stay out of it. And they learn a tremendous amount from each other with that. And I've seen my son with one of our neighborhood kids who's really competitive, And for a while, it was very hard for me because this kid would be kind of aggressive, and I would want to intervene. And now they're best buddies. Like, you know, now they got through it and figured it out, and now they're great friends, and it's wonderful. And so I think keep trying new sports and new activities until you find what works, because there's something for everybody.
And do you just have one quick, maybe you can kind of wrap us up with what
Yeah.
that last thing might be for a parent to think about?
Yeah, I mean, I think parents as well, you should be thinking about, you know, and we need to empower the sensible parents out there. I think there are a lot more sensible parents out there than the crazy ones who we see get on fights and viral videos. So sometimes you have to do due diligence. You know, one tool that we have at the Project Play website, projectplay.us, is the Project Play Parent Checklist. These are 10 simple questions that any parent can ask themselves, their child, their sports provider, about what they like, how to create a positive sports experience. And some of it is looking inward as a parent, right? What am I doing well, but what am I maybe not doing well? Am I putting too much pressure? Am I putting them in the wrong sport? Am I doing it because of me as opposed to because of the child?